Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our fourth annual Founders Award series. Today is the third of four events that are happening each Thursday in May from noon to 1 o'clock. We are honoring 8 outstanding women in our community for their accomplishments, their courage, and their example. And now, please meet the 2021 Founders Award honorees. Each honoree will receive this beautiful engraved silver plate tray donated by Krogan's Jewel Box, wrapped in this beautiful package. While we honor these women, we are also highlighting the work of Trident Literacy and the critical role women play in the education of their families. Women and girls around the world with low literacy face many challenges and are at risk for major issues, including poverty, sex trafficking, infectious diseases, incarceration, gender inequality, violence, and child labor. More than 43 million adults in the U.S. cannot read, write, or do basic math above a third grade level. 65% are women. At Trident Literacy, 56% of our students are women trying to make a better life for themselves and their children. Research tells us that when women increase their skills, they increase their income. When they increase their income, they use their new earnings to improve their education, health, and nutrition, and that of their families. They become better able to read to their young children and help them with their schoolwork. They set an example. They teach their children that education is important. Thank you all for supporting Trident Literacy. You are changing lives and making the world a better place for all humankind. And now a special shout out to our founder, Pat Gibson. Pat had two experiences that led to the founding of Trident Literacy. Once she was asked by an older gentleman at the local card shop if a greeting card said the right thing for his grandson. When she paid for her purchase, the clerk thanked Pat for helping the man and said, "He's in here all the time buying cards, but he can't read them." Another time at the voter registration office, Pat watched an older woman at the front of the line approach the desk. The clerk handed the woman an index card and told her that successful registration required her to read the contents of the card and follow the instructions. The woman turned the card over and upside down several times, studied it carefully, and placed it back on the desk and left. Since she could not read, she could not register to vote. Those experiences planted the seed that launched Trident Literacy in 1972. In the beginning, Pat matched up students and volunteer tutors and kept track on index cards that she kept in a shoebox under her bed. From that small shoebox, Trident Literacy has grown into an award-winning adult education program with locations throughout the Tri-County, providing instruction to more than 800 adults annually with the help of nearly 150 volunteers. In 49 years, tens of thousands of adults have increased their skills, earned their GED, learned English as a second language, gone on to higher education, training programs and apprenticeships, and qualified for jobs. They have changed the life course for themselves and their families and reversed the cycle of generational poverty and illiteracy for generations to come. Thank you, Pat. As Margaret Mead so eloquently said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And now, a big thank you to our sponsors. Thank you all very much. Now it is my honor to introduce Autumn Phillips, Managing Editor of the Post and Courier, our equity sponsor.
Hello, and welcome to the third event in Trident Literacy's fourth annual Founders Award Series. The Post and Courier is proud to be the equity sponsor for the fourth consecutive year. At the Post and Courier, we know that literacy is the foundation of our existence. It's fundamental to everything we do. Without it, we cannot function. For Post and Courier readers, understanding the written word is the gateway to the news and to a deeper understanding of the word, the deeper understanding of the world that the news provides. With literacy, we can engage the world, improve our community, achieve economic prosperity, and build a productive life for ourselves and for our families. The Post and Courier is a natural partner for Trident Literacy. We share these values, and we share the commitment to make our community and our world a better place for everyone. On behalf of the Post and Courier, I most enthusiastically congratulate all the honorees. Congratulations to Trident Literacy for your excellence and impressive track record of 49 years of helping people change the course of their lives.
It's uncommon for a paper the size of the Post and Courier to have dedicated health reporters the way that we do. I think the Post and Courier has a keen ability to take the long view and to think through what stories are going to be the most important. We're able to take on some really complicated topics and make them understandable for people. Some of these topics are ones that the community might not know about otherwise unless the Post and Courier decided to write about them.
I now have the pleasure of introducing today's first honoree, LaVanda Brown. LaVanda Brown joined YWCA Greater Charleston as Executive Director in February 2016. Her experience, leadership, and a passion for serving others spans 30 years. During her decades of on-the-ground experience in social services focused on underserved populations, she has led and advised multiple nonprofits and for-profit organizations, including Family Promise of Greater Savannah, Union Mission, Greenbrier Children's Center, Gang Alternatives of Miami, Clark Community Services in New Orleans, and others in the behavioral health, employment, and community services arenas. A passionate advocate for causes including gender equality, diversity, and racial equity, and a strong ally of under-resourced teens and homeless populations, she envisions a world where differences are not just tolerated, but celebrated. The mission of the YWCA is one that is very much in line with my personal mission of empowering women and celebrating differences, she says. During her career, LaVanda has developed strategic plans resulting in more positive community interventions, created a homeless case management system, developed a life skills curriculum, designed an aftercare program to help the homeless transition to independence, and instituted permanent supportive housing for homeless adults and families. Her work has garnered awards, including the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Best Practices Award for Transitional Housing and Case Management, and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs Magnolia Award for Excellence in Housing. She was also the 2018 recipient of the Martin Luther King Jr. Picture Award for Outstanding Community Service, presented by Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg and South Carolina Representative Wendell Gilliard, and was honored as one of the 2020 top 50 most influential by the Charleston Business Magazine. LaVanda currently serves on the Community Solutions Advisory Board. CSP provides community leaders from around the world with an intensive professional development exchange program in the United States. She also serves on the board of Enough Pie, an organization dedicated to improving Charleston's Upper Peninsula. LaVanda holds a dual bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology from Wesleyan and a master's in counseling from Georgia Southern. And it is now my honor to introduce Linda Ketner, our next honoree. As a donor activist in her community, Linda Ketner has served as president of the Coastal Community Foundation, president of Crisis Ministries, now 180 Place, founder and chair of the Mayor's Council on Homelessness and Affordable Housing, chair of the South Carolina Housing Trust Fund, co-founder of South Carolina Citizens for Housing, co-founder of Charleston Affordable Housing, and served on the boards of the Hollings Cancer Center, Center for Women Advisory Council, Health Sciences Foundation, the International African American Museum, Social Justice Racial Equity Council, Palmetto Project, and the YWCA of the USA. She is co-founder and past president of Alliance for Full Acceptance and South Carolina Equality Coalition. She's on the advisory boards at the College of Charleston Riley Center, Women and Gender Studies Advisory Council, President's Diversity Review Committee, President's Strategic Initiative Committee, and Dean's Council for the School of Humanities. As the 2008 South Carolina Democratic nominee for United States Congress, District 1, Linda won over 48% of the vote, narrowly losing to a 4-term incumbent in a district that has been Republican for the previous 34 years. Linda is president of KSI Leadership and Management Development. Prior to co-founding KSI, she was director of organizational development for Food Lion Stores, responsible for new program design with the Center for Creative Leadership, and manager of organization development for SmithKline Corporation. She has been adjunct professor at UNC Greenville and the College of Charleston, teaching complex organizations and leadership. An enthusiastic Renaissance Weekend participant, she is a leadership graduate and has been honored with the following awards: National Salute to Citizenship, South Carolina Woman of Valor, Girl Scout Woman of Distinction, South Carolina Housing Achievement, and the Homeless to Hope Award for enduring contributions to alleviating homelessness. Also, the Malcolm D. Haven Award for Community Service, CSHA Woman of the Year, We Are Family Founders, YWCA Lifetime Achievement, Center for Women Foundation, Alliance for Full Acceptance, and SC Equality Founders. SCGLPM Volunteer of the Year, SCGLBG Trailblazer Awards, committed to anti-racism work. She has received the NAACP J. Arthur Brown Award for Outstanding Service, Lifetime Achievement, and Friends Award, and the Urban League Arthur J. Clement Award for Race Relations. She holds a bachelor's from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master's from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and attended both Duke and Emory, working toward her PhD. Linda is a recipient of honorary doctorates from Columbia College and the College of Charleston. Congratulations to you both.
Okay, now let's get started with the next portion of the program, which is questions and conversations with our honorees. I have some prepared questions, but if you out there listening have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them as well. Okay, question number 1. All I can say right now is, wow. Both of you have such interesting and varied backgrounds. You've served in so many leadership positions and have so many accolades. I'm exhausted. I lost count. And you're both so committed to social causes like diversity and equal rights, fairness, homelessness, and the list goes on. When do you sleep? That's not the real question. Seriously, though, one of the things we help our students with at Trident Literacy is choosing a career path. Please tell us how you chose your career paths. LaVanda, in your prep video that you made for us a while back, you mentioned the influence of your grandparents. I would love for you to tell us more about that. And Linda, your career path has had many twists and turns. Tell us about that, and maybe focus on some of the women who influenced you most. LaVanda, why don't you go first?
All right, well, thank you, and thank you to the Literacy Foundation for this opportunity. I feel honored to be sitting here with Linda Ketner, who, as you heard, you're right, it is exhausting, all the things, but I was very pleased to hear some of the areas where we intersect in our work. So excited to be here with you, Linda. Yes, I did talk about my grandparents. My grandparents were a very big influence in my life. My grandmother, I distinctly remember that she got her high school diploma when I was in the 8th grade. I graduated 8th grade, and like 2 days later, she graduated from high school. And it was for no reason other than that she wanted to do it. She wanted to prove to herself that she could get a high school diploma. And she went to night school. She got her high school diploma, and it was probably the best. I mean, I've been to many, many graduations, but it was by far the best graduation that I had been to. And I think it was because she was a stay-at-home mom. She was, my grandparents weren't rich by a long shot. My grandfather quit school when he was in the third grade to help take care of his family. So he was largely illiterate himself, but he was a self-taught plasterer. He taught himself to be a brick mason, and he taught himself how to be a roofer. And so he developed his own business plan and decided to save his money, purchase homes himself, and then he would fix houses and either sell them or rent them out. So long before Property Brothers and Chip and Joanna Gaines and all these people that we watch now, I watch them all the time. Long before them, in the late 70s and the 80s, my grandfather was basically flipping houses with a third grade education. And my job at 16, the minute I got my driver's license, I was told, now your job is to collect rent. So my job was to collect rents at his 10, by that point, he had 10 properties. And for a Black man in Savannah, Georgia, with a third grade education, to have 10 properties that he owned free and clear, there were no mortgages on these houses, that he owned free and clear, that was really saying something. And my grandfather was a very proud man. But he was also very insecure about not being very literate. And so education was important to him. So he worked himself to the bone to ensure that his girls, he had 3 girls, he worked himself to the bone to ensure that his girls went to private Catholic school, because in his mind, that was the best that there was in Savannah. So he and my grandmother worked in homes, and she washed, she did laundry, she did ironing, she did lots of domestic work to be able to send her daughters to private school so that they would not have the type of struggle that my grandparents had. And so I'm the product of that type of perseverance. And I still haven't quite made it to my mom. When she left this earth, she had achieved her doctorate degree, and I consider myself a college dropout because I've done the doctoral thing twice and I have yet to make it to the finish line. So, in our family, you got to do better than your parents. So I got to get there I got to do it because she did it. And being first generation college, that was quite an achievement for my mom. So I would just say that for me, this is a great honor because literacy and my grandparents pushing my mom and her siblings, they all were college educated, all first generation college, actually first generation high school, if you don't count the fact that my grandmother made it a point to not get her GED and to actually get her high school diploma. They did what no one else in their family had done. So being honored on this stage around literacy is very personal to me. I do not think I'd be where I am had reading and literacy and education not been such an important part of my life and my upbringing. So I thank my ancestors beyond my grandparents. I thank all of my ancestors because I do know that the deep-seated desire to be better goes way beyond those ancestors that I met in my lifetime, but it goes all the way to the ancestors that first walked this earth. And so I'm very grateful for the tribe that I come from. So thank you.
That is so inspirational. A lot of our students here are the first ones in their families also to get their GED, and they want a better life, and they're on the same kind of path. So that,
and they can do it. I'm a witness.
And perseverance is the secret word, not a secret. It's what it takes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Linda.
Yeah, I have decided that I really enjoy listening to LaVanda, so I'm going to let her talk the rest of the. I'm kidding, but I want to hear more about LaVanda for sure. And I've just gotten to know her during COVID, so we've spoken on the phone a couple of times, but I'm looking forward to knowing her. My grandmother is also probably the most influential woman in my life. She was She and my grandfather had a small general store in Faith, North Carolina. Population was about 200 back in the day. And they ran this general store, the two of them themselves. They grew their own produce. They raised their own animals. They slaughtered them. That went into the general store, whatever. My grandfather died young, but my grandmother, she was like, you can imagine what it was like in Faith with 200 people and a very simple life. And, you know, not much education. She had to quit and help her family after her brother had died very early in her life. So she didn't have much education. And she was Socrates. And I don't know where it came from because there wasn't, you know, a great number of external resources available to her. But let me give you a couple of examples of how it was a major influence in my life and really my God star. Back in the day of Jim Crow, we were at a 5 and 10 cent store. And I was about 4. I could read because I read early. And it was the first time I saw a colored and a white water fountain. And she was with me. I was with Ma, I called her, at the store. And I looked at her and I said, what does that mean? And I said, colored, white, what does that mean? And she said, what do you think it means? And I said, are white people supposed to drink from this one? And colored people supposed to drink from that one? And she said, yes. And I said, well, why? What does that mean? And she said, you know, what would you do? I'm 4 years old. So what would you do? And what are you going to do? Is it right? And I said, no, that's crazy. And she said, so what are you going to do? So I thought for a little bit and I went over and I drank from the colored water fountain. And I said, boy, that was tasty. And she said, you know, she says, Linda, she said, you're going to run across things like this all your life. And you need to decide right now what you're going to do about it. What I'm telling you is when you confront things that aren't right or wrong, or that you feel aren't right, it's your responsibility to do something about it. So you just need to figure out what needs doing and get at it. Figure out what needs doing and get at it. And I'm thinking of putting that on my tombstone when I die, because it's been the one thing that has guided my life. Figure out what needs doing and get at it. And there's a lot to do in America at this particular time and throughout our lifetime and throughout this country's lifetime. And I've never really truthfully understood, and I think she planted this seed as well, what we think we're doing on the planet, if it's not that, if it's not figuring out what needs doing and getting at it to make this a better world for everybody. Trident Literacy has done that in such a wonderfully impactful way. I just admire so much what you do. LaVanda obviously does that. But what my grandmother did and set in motion in me at age 4 is my God star. It is probably the center of my thought about most everything that I do. But she did a couple of things that are really, really, as I look back, obviously I didn't know it when it was happening, but she was telling me that I was responsible for doing something. I was able to do something, and I had everything I needed to do it. And I'll give you one more example of one of our conversations that, again, reinforced this. Maybe I was 5. I don't know. I know I wasn't in school when I came to her and I said, because there were a lot of, I lived in Faith at the time too, Faith, North Carolina too. And there were a lot of rich, not rich people, but poor people in Faith and people that had enough of everything. So I went to her and I said, Mom, I don't understand why God gives some people too much of everything and other people not enough. I don't understand that. Why does God do that? Some people are poor and don't even have enough to eat or wear clothes that, keep them warm. Other people have too much of everything. What is that about? What is God doing? And she said, she got real quiet for a minute and she looked at me and she said, well, Linda, do you think God is like Santa Claus? He works through, elves at night? And I went, no, I don't think he does. She said, he doesn't. He works through you and me. And so what he expects when you see something wrong is to figure out what needs doing and get at it. She said, God gave you a good brain, Linda Ketner, and he doesn't work through else at night. So he's going to work through you. So you need, when you see something wrong, you need to do something about it. And so I had this kind of guidance from very early on. And it framed the way I look at my job on this planet for the however many years I get. And that frame is that when I see something wrong, I'm supposed to go after it.
Wow, another incredibly inspirational story. What a wise grandmother. And even at the age of 4, you were so wise to take her advice to heart and not stop at just changing one thing, but continuing to change. I'm so sorry now that this event is only 1 hour because I want to listen to both of you all day long. So we're going to get to question number 2, but right now we're going to take a 1-minute break to hear from some of our sponsors.
When something's just right, it's hard to find, but easy to recognize. You know it's just the perfect fit. At South State Bank, that's us. The sweet spot between a big bank and a small one. So you get the services you need, combined with the service you need too. High tech and high touch. Sophisticated and simple. Right here at South State.
Okay, ready to tackle question number 2? So again, I told the panelists before the event, I'm going to ask the questions, but truly they're welcome to answer whatever they want to. These are just some prompts, so please feel free to veer off the path. Question number 2. You've already shared some personal stories regarding your experiences, but could you share some more? And today we're focusing on women, but of course you're free to talk about anything or anybody you want to. So maybe talk about some people whose lives you've helped change, or perhaps some of the most challenging personal experiences in your life. LaVanda, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I will actually. So many women, of course. I am a product of the YWCA Savannah and Jack and Jill of Savannah, my mom and my grandma. So there are so many women. I can't even, the countless number of women in church, Girl Scouts, like just so many women. Even though I was a pure daddy's girl, like fishing on Saturdays. That's what we did. So, cooking hush puppies and cooking whatever we caught during the day. That was, I was a daddy's girl. I'd call home from college, talk to my mom for like 30 minutes, and I'm like, where's my daddy? So he was my daddy. I'm not the only child, but he was my daddy. So I am a daddy's girl, but my women were such a great influence. But I there is a client of mine from Savannah. When I worked for 25 years or so, helping to remove barriers to independence by working with homeless families and individuals. Started a long time ago when HIV and AIDS was a precipitator to homelessness. So, like, I'm dating myself, so don't anybody try to guess my age, but that's how long ago I've been doing this work. But probably about 5 years before I moved to Charleston, I ran across Dorothea. And Dorothea was she was a teacher that had to go out on disability for a physical disability. She had a son who was diagnosed with Asperger's, and he was in middle school at the time. And she had been at one of those shelters that we hear about, where you kind of show up at a certain time, and if you get a bed, you get a bed. I mean, if you ever seen the Will Smith movie, you understand, and that's reality, that there are shelters where you show up at a certain time. If you get a bed, you get a bed. If you don't, then you don't. And Dorothea had lots of health issues. She had some physical issues, but this is a woman who had dedicated her life to being an educator. And she also had this preteen son who had special needs. And coming into the shelter environment that I created in the program I ran, where we did not, where we treated everyone as a family unit and an individual, and an individual. And you had your space. Your space was your space. And you worked a plan to work your way out of homelessness. So within about 90 days, through a lot of her own perseverance, and I'll say that there are so many Dorotheas out there that they see the need. They know, they just don't have the navigator. We all now, we have navigation, right? So I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm driving along with my navigation and it says signal lost. And I'm like, well, then I'm lost because I don't know, I don't know where I am. If you're lost, then I'm lost. So for many people, most people that I ran into in my 20 plus years of working with homeless clients, they have what it takes to become independent and to stand on their own. They need help getting there. They need help removing that red tape. They need help understanding and believing in themselves again. As a parent, when you can't provide for your children, you immediately feel like a failure. I know me as a parent, my children are adults, and there are times that, I feel like I can't help them with the situations that they're going through, and I'm educated. So I can't imagine what a Dorothea, being a disabled parent with a disabled child, trying to navigate through the shelter system. But through her perseverance and through her just taking the time to go through the paperwork, getting her disability, doing the things that she needed to do, she's now a homeowner. And she called me about 3 years ago, and I was like, "Hey, Miss Chappell, how you doing?" She's like, "Look here, we're friends now. It's Dorothea. You're LaVanda and I'm Dorothea." Because at this point we had been, she'd been out of the shelter for 5 years or so. She's like, we're friends now. And so now we're friends. And she talks a lot about how that experience changed her life. And now her son is, he's graduated from technical college. He has a culinary arts degree. And he's doing things. And this is all because of her perseverance. So I say all that to say that this organization that, you all are watching and we're experiencing this, it's not about fixing people. The people aren't broken. The systems are broken.
Right.
The people are not broken. The people, we have the pieces. We may be a little shattered. We may be a little worn and torn, but we have everything we need. Some of us have great parents, have great educated parents, have great resourceful parents. I have a son who was misdiagnosed and undiagnosed with dyslexia all through high school. And again, I'm educated. My mother was an assistant principal at the time. And we were able to navigate him through not getting put behind because we understood the system. But just not being diagnosed for so long caused him harm. And so I feel like this organization, the Trident Literacy Association, you're helping people put the pieces they already have. You're not adding to what they don't. You're putting the pieces they already have together, and you're giving them the strength to make those pieces solid and whole. And this is going to change their lives forever. When I watched Linda's video and she talked about the fact of how many times a day we read. I wake up on Sunday mornings when it's time to put my daughter, I have an adult daughter with disabilities, and making sure that she's got her medicine out for the week. And I read it, I have to read her medicine. I have to make sure it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the evening. These are things we start out reading every morning. If I have a headache, I want to know, can I take 2 of these or should I only take 1? I read the label. I have to put my glasses on, but I can still read the label because I'm literate. And there are people who don't have, and that's a privilege. I think we all need to understand That is a privilege that we are literate. Those of us who are literate are privileged. And then if you add English is not your first language, there is a whole different barrier on top of that when you are in this country. So literacy is a privilege, but it should be a right. It should be a right, and we should all have it. And so the foundation and the Trident Literacy Association, my hat is off to you for doing what you do and helping people find their pieces and put them together. So for me, it's been the women. I had to read the Bible in church. I had to had to read everything. I had to do it all. Had to do Easter speeches, and they just gave you this piece of paper. Here's your Easter speech. Memorize it, and you better not mess up. So literacy and reading has always been a part of my life, and the women who supported me, but also the women who said, take your time, baby. Take your time, read it again, because I was one of those ones. I would read it really fast and I'd fill in what I thought was the word, and that wasn't it. So just, having that patience. And I know that the instructors at the literacy, at Trident Literacy have that type of patience and have that type of love and that heart for people. So thank you. Thank you for what you do. Again, I'm like Linda, I can't be honored. I got to honor what you guys are doing, because this is what it's all about. I'm just here to sing your praises and to explain how what you do, even before I moved to Charleston, even before I became a working adult, this whole literacy piece has been a part of my life. And so I'm just glad that you all found me and that I found you.
Oh my gosh, I'm just exploding with inspiration after listening to that. And at Trident Literacy, we do say that we're not just teachers, but we help our students. We're coaches, we're mentors. Mm-hmm. We empower them, and they have to work to make the difference in their own lives. And so much of what you've both said are metaphors for just what to do in life. I think I'm going to print out and plaster it on the walls. Think about what needs doing and get at it.
Yes,
and for our students, when you lose your signal, if you lose your signal, we can help.
Yes, you are the signal.
So many notes. You're both so inspirational. But Linda, perhaps, it couldn't have all been clear sailing for you going through life to get to where you are and all these wonderful accomplishments. Maybe talk about some of the most challenging experiences you've had.
Probably personally, the most challenging thing for me was I had a very homophobic mother who I think was terrified that I was a lesbian. She was right. And I hid it for 30 something years. And finally, and this is so important, we all have to claim who we are. And I claimed who I was in my late 30s. And I think that's right. And then, of course, I needed to figure out what needed doing and get at it. So I started Alliance for Full Acceptance. And at that point in time, there really weren't, we're talking, I think we started it in 98. At that point in time, everybody that was gay or lesbian in Charleston, believe it or not, was, like me. They were so in the closet, they were a garment bag. And our goal was to educate about the subject of being gay and lesbian, transgender, and not alienate. So we went at it with a very public, we did television, we did radio, we did talk shows, we did billboards. And I remember when I finally came out to my mom, I said, you must have known that I was a lesbian. And she said, I did, but I thought if I made it sound bad enough, you'd stop. You wouldn't do it.
Yes.
Man, that had impact. In any case, it took me a lot of years of therapy, and then I busted loose. And the next thing you know, I'm on a billboard. Because the last thing her husband said to me when I told him that I was coming out and starting an organization, he said, oh, please, just don't march and be on a billboard, stuff like that. Don't make it so public. So I went out and was on a billboard, and there were several of us that were willing to put a face to the faceless gay and lesbian who who we really were. And the billboard said, "We are your neighbors and we are gay." And there was a minister on the billboard with me. Charlie Smith, the realtor, was on there with me. There was a doctor that was gay that was on the billboard with me. And
let's give her a minute to come back. I tell you what, I don't know what happened, but let's have a quick.
Hey, Eileen.
Try to find her. Let's have a quick commercial from our
Okay.
sponsor, and maybe we'll find her. Oh, here she comes. She's back. Oh.
What sets the Steinberg Law Firm apart from other firms is our genuine compassion and desire to help each and every one of our clients.
Our motto of getting the firm behind you says it all.
We have a great track record representing injured folks.
Everybody collaborates on each case together.
We have a collective mission and a passion to help injured workers. Get the firm behind you.
I'm back.
Okay, Linda, continue. Please continue. You were talking about the other people on the billboard with you.
Exactly. So the whole idea is to try to, can you see me? Because I can't see me. Okay, let me see if I can do that. There, that should work. Apologize for that. So we went from our first meeting that had probably a dozen people, and now we have thousands of AFA, Alliance for Full Acceptance members. The idea was I had been fighting for all these other causes all my life up to that point and had never fought for myself in terms of my sexual orientation. That was probably the bravest thing I did. Interpersonally, relationship with the family. My father was absolutely fine with it, but my mother, she never wanted a lesbian as a daughter. And so it was a long process to get connected with my mom again, the interpersonal part of it. It worked. And, mom got Alzheimer's, and I was the caretaker for 11 years for my mother right after I lost at Congress. And so there's hard stuff about living. And I guess for that tender, hard stuff that we all, whether it's our parents or whether it's a different sexual orientation or whatever the hard stuff is for you, I'm just encouraging you to move to it, because that's the way you get through it. And, my mother died in my arms, and we had repaired all the damage that had been done throughout the years. So if I am older now and I'm more philosophical. Yes, your career is important, and I had a great one, and I can talk about it. But what's important in life is deeper and more meaningful than most of our jobs. And so I just want to encourage people to move to and through the challenges, whatever yours is, and focus on the personal ones so that you can clean up, clear up, and be as close as possible to the people you love and that love you.
Amen.
That is such great advice. I want to say, I remember when that happened, and I remember I didn't know you, and I remember thinking, what a brave woman that is, and what a leader. And you really changed the landscape, not just for gay and lesbian people and now transgender and everything else, but opened up the conversation about equality and fairness and all of that. And I really applaud you for adding that to your resume, and also now for saying to everyone, take care of your personal self and be who you are. And we encourage our students at Trident Literacy to do the same thing. Show us what you can do and be yourself and excel for who you really are. So we have some time left. So I'm going to throw out a number of questions, and you can answer any of them, or you can just say whatever you want to say in the time remaining. So here's some questions that we've got in the lineup. What advice would you give to anyone, women or anyone? What books are you reading now, or have you read lately that you would like to recommend? And Linda, why do you refer to yourself as a donor activist rather than a philanthropist?
Okay.
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I want to first recommend some books, because one of the things I've come to learn too late in life is that, I didn't know this, but every state picks what you learn in history. So I didn't learn it in North Carolina, and you didn't learn it in South Carolina. There are two books that are essential reading, okay? American Rule, it's new. It's Jared Yates Sexton, and it's all the history that was real that they didn't teach us. American Rule, Jared Yates Sexton, starts at the beginning of founding of the Declaration of Independence and takes you through real history, things we didn't learn. Big in that, of course, is all the stuff about slavery that we didn't learn, and all the stuff that was going on that we didn't know about. Caste, Isabel Wilkerson. She's a fabulous writer. This is a must book for everybody that wants to understand this country's duplicity about its racial past, its racial history, which I think is essential learning and helps us figure out what needs doing and getting at it. She also wrote There Weren't the Other Sons, which is a fabulous book too, about 6 million African-American people leaving the South in the 20s and finding themselves in a situation not too dissimilar in lands where they thought they would have it easier. It's a fascinating book as well. But these two books, because they didn't teach us history, and I mean in college too, high school, elementary school, they should call it, if each state gets to decide what they're going to teach for history, they should call it, rather than history, indoctrination, because that's what it is. Myth and indoctrination instead of history would be more accurate. So read those two books, because we all need to know. Then we can figure out what needs doing and we can get at it.
Absolutely.
Excellent recommendations. Thank you. LaVanda?
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on that real quick, because I would be remiss if I did not encourage everyone listening and everyone who sees this later to attend the YWCA's Racial Equity Institute. It is a 2-day deep dive into the intentionality and the ramifications of racism in the United States. And you will get a ton of resources, including what Linda has already shared, on how race has been designed as a social construct based on a false hierarchy. You will understand the data, you will receive the data and understand the data, and that it is not a Southern problem. Race and racism is not a Southern problem. It is not even just an American problem. We just can only focus on America for 2 days. So, but it is certainly an issue that affects the literacy rates, the wealth rates, the housing. It affects every single part in every system in this country. But also, most recently, just this morning, found out about the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones. It's not a book. It is a, it's a report, but it has received lots of flack and support for its unveiling of the history of this country as it relates to slavery. And she's been recently offered a position at UNC Chapel Hill, and they are not offering her tenure, which they have offered to every other journalist with her credential, which most don't have the credentials that she has. She is, of course, a woman of color. So I would encourage you, I am sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for 2:00. Their chancellor is supposed to give some type of remarks on why she was not offered tenure when other fellows with her credentials who have been offered positions there have received that. So that's my little bit of soapbox, but I have to say this, and this is totally different. The best and the kindest people I ever met in my childhood were librarians. Literally, as a child, I was so shy and so reserved that books was where I went to be anything. I could be anything I wanted to be. And so my fondest memories of my childhood on my street, 10 Redwood Circle in Savannah, doesn't exist anymore. I think there's a Walmart there, but that's where the bookmobile would, and other than the ice cream truck, the bookmobile was my favorite neighborhood spot. And I was the kid that had to be told, honey, you have to get off the bus now. I mean, I could check out the books, but it was so fun sitting. So I'm saying that out loud. So if anybody out there can bring the bookmobile back to my neighborhood, I would just love to have a bookmobile come back through for my grandsons and my granddaughter. Because that was, I mean, my fondest memories was losing myself in books, turning the pages, the smell of new books and the smell of old books. They smell different, but they all bring back the same nostalgia for me as a reader. So, I mean, I was doing Nancy Drew and Encyclopedia Brown back then. So those were my books, and now I've advanced. But the bookmobile and the librarians were by far the kindest people that I met on the planet. And so they helped reading. And I'm sure that Trident literacy instructors have that same spirit that just make people want to just dive into books. So those are my memories.
So I have some good news for you, LaVanda, because we do have a family literacy program here at Trident Literacy that is actually free to all of our students who have preschool age children.
Oh,
and
nice.
We have 2 bookmobiles that come to our parking lot once a week. Well, when we reopen, they'll be back, of course,
Right.
not during COVID. Berkeley County Library and Charleston County Library, and you are welcome to come to that bookmobile whenever you want.
You will have to drag me off, just like they did back in the 70s. But
I'll
yeah,
be happy
I will,
to. You
I
got
will
it.
certainly come.
So I want to thank you both so much. This has been the most inspirational and wonderful hour. I can't believe we're out of time. I wish we could go longer. I just want to thank you so much for the gifts you've given us today by all of your stories and your wonderful willingness to tell them and share them. I want to thank everyone who's joining us today, and I hope you will join us next Thursday, May 27th at noon for part 4 in our series, when we will honor Sue Hanshaw, the CEO Emeritus of Tri-County Family Ministries, and Harriet McDougall, editor, philanthropist, and author. Tickets are available on our website, tridentlit.org/events. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.